Hi, Teri here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is this pretty card. I used the Daisy Lane stamp set together with paper from the Flowers for Every Season 6-inch Designer Series paper pack. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. This is the Daisy Lane stamp set, and today I'm using the smaller of the two daisy images and the smile sentiment. I'll be stamping on some normal weight Whisper White card, and I'm going to start by stamping the sentiment using Misty Moonlight ink. And then for the daisy, I'm also going to bring in Bumblebee ink. Now I've transferred some of the ink to the lid, and to do that I just turned the pad upside down and gave it a light squeeze. Now I've got some copy paper here that I'm going to stamp off on. So I'm going to ink up my stamp with Misty Moonlight first of all, and then I want to use the bumblebee for the centre of the flower. Now I haven't purchased the Stampin' Right markers for the ink colours this time, so I'm going to do this in a different way. If you've got the markers, just remove the blue ink and then colour with the yellow. So I've used a slightly damp Q-tip or cotton bud to remove the ink from the centre of the flower, and then I'm going to take an aqua painter and I'm going to keep it quite dry, and then I'll pick up some bumblebee ink and paint it onto the middle of the flower, taking care not to mix it with the blue because I don't want it to go green. Now, while I've been covering the centre of the flower, the blue ink has already started to dry. So before I stamp this image, I'm going to give it a huff, and my warm breath will reactivate all the ink. Then I'm going to stamp it off once, and then stamp it onto my card. And you can see the beautiful image you get with the lovely yellow centre. Now I'm going to do that once more, and then I'll choose the best looking one to go on the top of my flower. So first of all, I'm removing that centre ink with a damp Q-tip or cotton bud, and then using my aqua painter I'm going to fill in the centre. Once that's done, I'll huff on the stamp, stamp it off and stamp it down. I also need a third layer, and the centre of this won't show, so I'm just stamping another one using the Misty Moonlight ink. I'll be using one of the stitched rectangle dies to die cut the sentiment, and it's the one size up from the smallest in this grouping. Now when I die cut it, I'm going to make sure that the sentiment is off towards the right hand side, so I've got room to add my flower on the left. Now the daisies will all be punched out using the coordinating medium daisy punch. I've gone ahead and added dimensionals onto the reverse of the sentiment, and now I'm going to shape my daisies. First of all, I'm going to decide which one I'm going to use for the top, and that will remain flat. I'm not shaping him at all. Now the one that's going underneath it needs the petals to curl upwards. So I'm holding it upside down and I'm holding onto the centre of the flower, and then I'm running each of the petals between my thumb and the edge of the bone folder, and this will cause the petals to curl upwards. Now for the bottom layer, I want the petals to curl down, so I'm holding it the right way up. Again, I'm holding it in the centre, and then I'm running each of the petals between my thumb and bone folder again, and this time the petals will curl down. You only want to use very light pressure when you do this, otherwise you could pull the petals off. I'm now going to add a little wet glue to the centre of the bottom flower. You could use glue dots for this if you prefer. And then I'm going to position my middle layer offsetting the petals. Just give that a second or two for the glue to take. Then I can add more glue to the centre of the flower and position my top layer, again offsetting the petals against the previous layer. And you can see the lovely dimension curling the petals gives this flower. Now I'm going to add a couple of mini dimensionals onto the back, and then my flower's ready to go. To create this pretty strip that goes underneath my top panel, I used the decorative ribbon border punch. Now sadly this is now retired, but you could use any border punch or any border die that you've got to create this little panel. Now I'm going to use the decorative ribbon border punch again on my new card, and I've got a long strip of Misty Moonlight card that I'm going to create this with. Now this is much longer than I need, but when I'm using these border punches I find that it's better to start with a longer strip and then cut it down later. Now when using these border punches, you want to make sure that the bottom edge of the strip is right up against the raised edge at the back of the punch. Then each subsequent punch you need to line up the pattern on the base plate with what you've already punched. Now I've punched 3 full scallops here, and I need to make sure that the first scallop is underneath the punch and the other 2 are aligned with the pattern on the base plate. And on the opposite edge I'm making sure that the bottom edge is pressed up against that raised edge of the punch. Okay, so now I've got a longer strip. I'm going to do the same on the other side, so that first scallop will disappear underneath the cutting part of the punch. There we go. And the next 2 will be aligned with the pattern on the base plate. And on the opposite side, the right hand side, I'm making sure that edge is right up against the raised edge of the punch. Hold everything in place and then punch down. And now I've got a nice long strip ready for my card. And I'll be able to centre this now because I've cut it longer than I need. I now just need to remove this border strip from my Misty Moonlight card, and then it's ready to use. I have some of the Flowers for Every Seasons designer series paper here, and this is as large as my card front, so it will cover the entire thing. Then I've a little panel of Misty Moonlight card, and I've embossed this using one of the Meadow Moments embossing folders. And these come in a pack of 2, and I've used the design on the bottom. I can now run a thin line of glue along the bottom edge of the Misty Moonlight panel on the reverse, and then I can position this on top of my little border strip. And because it's longer than I needed, I've got room to centre it over the pattern on that strip. Then I can just trim off any excess. This completed panel can now be positioned right at the top of my pattern paper. The gold trim that I'm using today is actually retired, but we still have gold trim in the catalogues, both in the Forever Greenery trim combo pack and the Wonder of the Season ribbon combo pack. Now I'm just going to anchor this on the left hand side using a small strip of tear and tape, and then I can remove the backing. Then I'm going to wind the trim around the top of the card 3 times. The little strip of glue will help keep the trim nice and taut against the card. Now I'm going to position a single glue dot where I want the bow to be. And I'm going to position this under the trim but not press it down yet. Then I can start tying my knot. So I'm left side over right side and through, and when I bring it through, I'm bringing it through all the layers of the trim. Then I can press all the layers into the glue dot and finish my knot. Once that's done, I can tie my bow. And then I can zhuzh it to get it nice and pretty. Now when I trim off the ends, I'm going to keep them quite long. I'll trim them again when I've added the sentiment. And I just want to separate the 3 strands on the edge of this panel. And this gives it a lovely shape. My card base is in Misty Moonlight, and this is half a standard sheet of card scored in the middle and folded to create a portrait card. Then I've got the panel I've just created and my sentiment and flower. And for inside the card, I've got a normal weight Whisper White mat, and I'm going to decorate this with a strip of Misty Moonlight, onto which I'm going to layer some of the matching designer series paper, just so there's a little border showing at the top. I can then cut the ends to my gold trim. Now the card looks gorgeous as it is, with that yellow centre on the flower, so you could leave it as is if you wanted to, but I'm going to cover mine using one of, retired again I'm afraid, designer elements. Now these came in a pack with 3 colours, gold, silver and bronze. I used the silver ones on my original card, but I think I'll use one of the gold ones today and just add that to the centre of my flower. And that matches the trim lovely. And that's it. That's my card complete. Very pretty, but very simple to create. And here's another look at my original card. Now for this one, I cut a deeper border panel for the top of the card. The main colour used here was Poppy Parade, and the gingham ribbon is in Bumblebee. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.